Welcome back to the Essential Films Podcast, a podcast devoted to the discussion of the greatest movies ever made, or the essential films. I'm Adolfo Costa, and I am joined by my co-host, the man of the people, Mr. Mark Espinoza. How you been, Mark?
Adolfo, I knew they couldn't hold you down. What happened? You busted out of jail?
Well, yeah, man, it's been a while since we talked. We're back. I guess if this was a TV show, it would be a new season of the Essential Films podcast. But we're here today to talk about The Grapes of Wrath. Now, usually I ask you what your first experience with this movie is, but I think this might be a first. You pretty much just finished watching it right before we started recording.
That is correct.
For the first time, right?
First time.
So, initial thoughts. What do you think about it?
Well, first of all, overall it was very good. I enjoyed it very much. It's very well made. A lot of great performances here. Very heavy. We were talking about like heavy stuff when it came to sitcoms, but even here, like when it comes to this 1940, the story here is very heavy. There were points because now for those who don't know, and I don't think I've told you either, Adolfo, I really had no idea what I went in this completely blind. I watched no trailer. I never read the book. I had no idea what this was about. Like for all I knew, this was about grapes, like in The Simpsons, where they do the grapes of wrath joke, But no, there's no grapes at all in this movie. There's peaches, I think, but no grapes. So I had no idea what this movie was about. So for me, it did start a little slow. In the beginning, maybe about 20 minutes, 25 minutes into the movie, I was finally like kind of into the story and, with the characters, kind of familiar with them and, interested in their journey and what all this was, the background of all this. But at the beginning, like, it's a little hard to kind of just get your interest in, especially when you're going in blind like that. But they did a good job of developing, the character, especially Tommy. You kind of, when he comes in, like we'll talk about later, like it's very mysterious in a way. Like, he kind of just shows up. You don't know what he's about. Is he a good guy, a bad guy? Like, what's his deal? And then the kind of transition from Tommy's story into the story of the family, I thought was very well done, and it definitely helped get my interest into the story. But I mean, we'll talk more in detail later about most of this stuff. But just overall thoughts of my first time was I really enjoyed it. It was a very good movie. I can see why John Ford won the Best Director Oscar, even though this didn't win Best Picture, which I thought was, again, I'll never understand that, but whatever. Again, I'm not going to get into that whole tangent again. But great movie, really great movie.
Yeah, so it's interesting to know just to see like after like not having any context. That's interesting to know. So I first watched this actually because I had to read the book in high school, and I read it, I believe, in 10th grade as a sophomore, and I was in AP English. And I'm not trying to brag, but I was in like AP English class in 10th grade. And the reason I'm not trying to brag is because my teacher it wasn't really the hardest class in the world because my teacher was kind of easy to manipulate. So basically, I was assigned to read The Grapes of Wrath, and like we each had a different book we were assigned. I was assigned The Grapes of Wrath, and the night before the report was due, I still hadn't read it. So like I pulled like an all-nighter trying to read it. Right, I think I got maybe like halfway through. Right, and I basically just I managed to call in sick, to school and not go in that day so I wouldn't have like my report to turn in. So to buy me another day to finish reading the book.
Right.
But what I ended up doing was like as the day progressed, I was like, I'm not gonna finish. There's no way I'm gonna finish this book. And I was like, I think there's a movie. So I'm gonna go rent the movie. So I went and rented the tape. And thankfully they had it. And I watched it. And that was my first experience with it, and
Right.
it worked out okay, because the movie and the book, there are differences, but they're like the first. I think like the first half of the movie and the first half of the book are almost exactly the same.
Okay.
some of the events later in the book like are there in the movie, but they're kind of rearranged. But it has a different ending. The movie has a different ending, and I may have gotten like
Ooh.
a little bit. I didn't get in trouble for not knowing the ending, but I it was one of those situations where I was like said something, and they're like, "Oh, but that doesn't happen because this happens." I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, right, yeah." That I just was I made some stupid excuse, but anyway, so I got away with it, but just barely. And then I did watch it again, like as an adult, like and had much more appreciation for it because the first time I watched it, was just like I need to be able to write the stupid book report. Um, Whereas the second time I watched it, I was like not under any sort of pressure. I just wanted to sit and enjoy the movie. So, yeah. So, um, yeah, I'll tell you about the ending of the book later, but when we get to that. But yeah, that was my first experience with this.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that was it worked out in the end for you because I mean, you do it more for your book report, but you got a hell of a movie, you know.
Yeah, I did get hell, and I remember enjoying it when I saw the movie, but I was also just kind of still under pressure to like, okay, as soon as the movie's over, I gotta actually write a report now, so I have to like sit down and
Yeah.
hurry up and write. Um, but yeah, so The Grapes of Wrath was released on January 24th, 1940. It was directed by John Ford, as you mentioned, with a screenplay by Nunnally Johnson, based on the book by John Steinbeck. Produced by Darrell F. Zanuck, the legendary producer, starring Henry Fonda, Jane Darwell, John Carradine, Shirley Mills, John Quaylen, and Eddie Quillen. Cinematography by Greg Tolan, and you can totally tell. Music by Alfred E. Newman, and distributed by 20th Century Fox, which is, I guess, makes it a Disney movie now.
Pretty much.
So a little background on the book, on the movie, I should say. So the book, when it was released, was like a major hit, and it got John Steinbeck the National Book Award and the Pulitzer Prize because basically, and we're gonna get into it. It's basically themes of like pro worker themes, like anti business, like not business, but anti like uh business owner or anti corporation kind of themes to it. Um, but what I find interesting is that the book was released in April 1939 and the movie was released January 1940. They started filming in September 1939 into October 1939. So less than 6 months after the book came out, they made a whole ass movie about it and released it in the next year. So within like the first publication of the book, less than a year later, the movie's out.
Oh wow, look at that.
Um, some other interesting facts that I learned about it that Zanuck, when he bought the rights to the book, he was kind of worried about potential communist messaging, which if you read the book or watched the movie, you can. I mean, it's not
It's not subtle,
it
yeah.
is not subtle. It is like hitting you with a brick. Um, but he and it wasn't the Red Scare at the time, but it was still like communist stuff, like still very no at the time. So he did send apparently like private investigators to like all these different work camps in Oklahoma and seeing everything that was happening, and they kind of reported back. Yeah, what he wrote about is basically true. So if anybody like tries to attack you, we can say it's like based in fact. So that's why he went ahead and went ahead with the production because like he felt safe enough to say, no, this is all actually happening. It's not propaganda.
Right.
Um, so and apparently Roger Ebert also wrote in one of his books that the other reason that he thinks that they got away with it was because it was roughly around World War II and people were thinking about other stuff than like
Yeah,
communists. So
distracted. Yeah.
yeah, so they were distracted. Some other background stuff I read while researching this, that it basically now there are some shots you can tell were on a studio set, but a lot of this movie was shot on location, which is rare at the time.
Right.
Most movies were shot on a set. It was rare to see anything shot on location, but they shot a lot on location, including Oklahoma, New Mexico, the San Fernando Valley in California, and Arizona, which makes kind of sense because those would be most of the states you'd be going through if you're going from Oklahoma west to California, which is what they do in the movie and the book.
So real quick, not Slight tangent, since you mentioned, Route 66. Santa Monica Pier is the end of the trail, Route 66. I actually got to visit Santa Monica Pier and took pictures of the big Route 66 sign that's there. They literally wrote "End of the Trail," so that was a really cool experience to see at the end of Route 66.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. So basically that's basically all the kind of background information I have. Most of it, everything else, I'm just kind of going to go through when we kind of cover the story and the plot. So kind of a general overview is basically the story of the Jodes, of Tom Jode and his family, who are an Oklahoma family of sharecroppers. They lose their farm, and they basically have during the Great Depression, during the big Dust Bowl of the 1930s, and they basically are forced to move west to try and find work. That's the kind of gist of the story.
Yep, pretty much.
So let's get into the plot. Tom Jode is played by Henry Fonda, the great Henry Fonda, and we kind of start off in the movie where he's kind of very mysteriously, like you said, you don't know what's going on with him, but he's like walking down a dirt road. He's coming home from something. He hitchhikes his way back to his old family farm, and as he's coming back, he meets up with an old preacher named Jim Casey, played by John Carradine, the father of David Carradine. Speaking of Kill Bill.
Yep.
Who's basically kind of like a hobo now, but he used to be a preacher. He was apparently it's funny because they're about the same age, but the actors are about the same age, but I think he's supposed to be much older than Tom because he's talking about how he baptized him when he was younger.
Right.
So,
which is weird because he looked about the same age.
Yeah, he looked definitely the same age. But he basically talks about how he's not a preacher anymore. He like lost the spirit. But they kind of make some jokes about that maybe he was fooling around with some of the girls he was baptizing because they were holy vessels. They skirted around it, but they basically said that he was, he was baptizing them in a special way.
Right.
But yeah, he's lost his spirit. He doesn't consider himself to be a spiritual leader anymore, and he's kind of just being a hobo. He's just kind of wandering, no real place to go. So him and Tom kind of decide to go up to the Jode property, but they find that there's nobody there. It's completely deserted.
Yep. So I don't know what I was talking about, watching this for the first time earlier today, and you see Tom, you just very mysterious, like he's coming from somewhere, you don't know where he's been, where he's going. He hitches that right on the truck, and then he tells the guy, he pretty much scares the guy off when he drops him off. He basically told him I'm a murderer, So I'm watching that scene and like, okay, so this guy's supposed to be like a good guy, a bad guy, because he kind of just scared off this dude by telling him he killed somebody. So like, am I supposed to be rooting for him? We'll find out, right? But I just thought it was funny that his first essentially screen appearance was doing all of that, so it kind of gives the wrong impression to him. It just seems like a bad dude, but he's not bad at all.
Yeah, and I think when he first meets up with Casey, I'm not sure, but he may have mentioned like it was like he did kill someone like self-defense or something.
Yeah,
so
right. You find out during that conversation that it was actually a self-defense thing, but before that, like he's a murderer. Okay, I guess he's the bad guy then. I don't know.
Yeah, so he was like just released from prison because it wasn't like murder. It was self-defense. So he was like he only got like 10 years or something like that. So obviously he's coming back to his home and like nobody's there. So and back then in the 1930s, you couldn't just like call someone up and say, hey, we're not going to be there when you get there. So like,
right.
But while they're like searching his old home, they find someone kind of hanging out there, like in the darkness, a fellow named Muley Graves, who's another kind of local farmer who also kind of got hit with hard times, and like the banks foreclosed on their home and bulldozed his house to the ground, but he's kind of gone kind of crazy, and he's just like refusing to leave the area, and he's just hiding out in different places, including the old Jode home.
Yeah, that was the flashbacks. That was rough. Like just seeing like the bulldozers come in and literally just trample everybody's houses. That was like okay, so now we're establishing okay, these guys are the a-holes, these are the bad guys, and then the farmers, which looks like Tom's family is a family of farmers, they're gonna be the good guys. They're gonna be the oppressed ones that we're gonna be rooting for. So these flashbacks really helped establish that very well.
Yeah. And I mentioned the Greg Tolan cinematography. Like when they meet Muley, like in the house, like it's like the house is pitch black, and like Henry Fonda just got like one candle, to like light up the room, and the shots on the faces are beautiful, like where he's just like all in darkness except his face, and like it just gives like this, like especially on Muley, it looks this just really look of desperation as like all these shadows are cast over his face. Really excellent cinematography in the shot.
Yeah.
I do not believe it was. I'll check later, but I do not believe it was nominated for cinematography, which is interesting to
Oh,
me.
I,
But
I can pull that up right now because I have the 13th Academy Awards as a tab here. So I'll tell you right now if it was on cinematography. Best original score, best sound recording, art direction, cinematography, black and white. No, it was not. It was not
wow,
nominated.
that's a shame. But yeah, it's a beautiful looking movie. So, but yeah, it's just like and whenever when they're in that flashback when they're showing Muley's house being like bulldozed down, like you also see like the guy that's coming to tell him about it. It's like, hey man, don't be mad at me. I'm just following my orders. So like you can like it just kind of just goes. It's like the old phrase, shit rolls downhill, right? Like so, like doesn't
Yep.
matter where you are on the chain, someone is like forcing you to do something you don't want to do. Um,
Right.
like the guy bulldozing is like, hey, I'm gonna lose my job if I don't do this, so I gotta do it.
Yeah, like
Um,
they're paying me, $3 a day, and I gotta feed my family, so I want
and
to
that
bulldoze your house.
and that's kind of like the theme throughout the whole movie. Like they just keep meeting people that are like, what am I gonna do? It costs. I'm getting paid to do this thing. And there's no other option, so I gotta do it.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, Tom then gets the idea to maybe go over to his uncle's house, where they might be where he might find his family, and he does end up finding his family there, kind of just in time because like they said the next day they're gonna basically pack their all their belongings onto this rickety ass truck to move out west to California where they hear there's work. Um, and it's funny because when I saw that, when I heard that line, it reminds me of like almost every zombie movie ever. They're always trying to get like out west or out east or somewhere where everything's gonna be better, right? And then when they get there, it's not better, you know.
Yep.
And that's basically, I mean, there's a bit of a hope at the end, but like as they get closer to California, they're realizing that it's really bad there too.
There's a point in the middle of this movie where they zoom in on like Henry Fonda's face, and then I could tell like from that face he was thinking this was a bad idea to do. I was like, I felt for the guy, but we'll get there. Couple things. The first was I just thought it was funny when Tom first shows up, and they all think that he busted out of jail, but he was
Yeah,
actually on parole, which is
yeah,
what I was alluding to at the beginning. Adolfo, I don't think you caught it.
yeah. I did catch it, but I was trying to remember what his response was, but I couldn't remember.
Parole. Like
Yeah,
first he was like, I'm on parole, and then after they'd asked him like the 10th time, he's like he just say parole, which I thought was hilarious. Like before, I think it was what the sister's husband. What the hell? He had a weird name.
Connie.
Connie. Before he could even finish the question, he just cuts on and just says parole. I thought I was dying. That was great. Some good humor there. So that was the first thing. The second thing was as they're preparing to leave, I just thought it was funny. Like the kids are singing, "We're going to California." I'm like, you know what? I should have sung that on the plane if I had known about it.
uh, yeah. So like you said, he meets up with his family. They all kind of congratulated him on busting out. Um, and he finds out that yeah, they're gonna pack everything up. They're leaving the next day. They're taking grandpa and grandma and uncle and the kids and the brothers and sisters and the pregnant sister and the husband and all these people are gonna just pack up into this rickety truck and go. But there's a great scene. I think right before they leave, where Ma is like has like a little fire going, like a little stove, and she's just kind of like burning some old memories
Yeah.
because she's like, I mean, because she's like can't take them with them, so like she doesn't want to leave them behind, so she just like burns them, and that's like a really. And there's this one scene where she like takes these like really nice earrings and like looks at herself in the mirror. It's like a heartbreaking shot. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so but right before this is kind of funny. Right before they leave, the grandpa like is having second thoughts and he starts freaking out and he's like, "I'm not gonna leave," and I'm just gonna stay here. And they have to give him his special syrup to calm him down.
To get him to go to sleep.
Like they don't actually say what the syrup is. I'm assuming it's like alcohol, but like
Yeah.
what the hell is it that
Get him
knocks
to
him
pass
out?
out. Yep.
But it doesn't really matter anyway, because pretty much very early on in the trip, whenever they're on Route 66 or Highway 66, what happens, he has a stroke or a heart attack. I think
Yes.
it's a stroke.
It's a stroke.
And he ends up dying on the way, and they have to basically pull over and bury him on the side of the road. It's really sad because again, they have no money. What are they gonna do, like with this dead body? So they decide to bury him on the side of the road. They leave a note to say, hey, just so nobody thinks somebody killed him, here's a note. like that would ever convince
Use a
anybody,
note
really.
saying who he is and how he died.
Yeah. And then this is another kind of instance where they kind of ask the preacher to be like, hey, can you say some words? Like, I don't do that anymore. I mean,
I ain't no preacher.
but they make him say something anyway. But yeah, this is a really kind of very sobering scene.
Yeah. And this is just the beginning of the sobering scenes to come. So, because before that, I mean, even though like it was sad what was happening with like the farmers, like they're losing their land, they're getting their houses bulldozed. But I think now, as far as on the trip, this was like the first like bad thing to happen to them on their way to California. It's just gonna get worse from here.
Yeah, totally. It just gets worse and worse for these freaking poor people as they go on and on. And again, like, when you think about it, like this happened to a lot of people. This was not like just a story made up for a book and a movie. This is like uh, based on like things that happen to people, and that like makes
Right.
you just kind of shake your head a little. But um, I think soon after that, they do end up in like kind of like it's like some sort of camp, like for people traveling, like maybe
Like
it's like a
travelers, yeah.
trailer park or something, or something. It's like basically like you stay there for the night, and then you leave in the morning, kind of thing. And they're kind of hanging out with all the other migrants that are trying to find work. And as um they're talking to this other guy, he's like, going to California, there's nothing out there. And he talks about how, like, how many flyers you think they sent out? Like, couple thousand? They only got like 100 people. They only got to work for about 100 people. And you think that you're gonna get work when you get there? So like, and which is one of the things you think about when you think that they're going, like, how much work is there actually out there? And then this guy basically spells it out for him. There's nothing out there except, like, and there technically is, but it's not very good work.
Yeah, and it's making sense. Like, at first, yeah, I thought he was just trying to start trouble, but then when you actually listen to what he's saying, you're like, you know what, this guy's making a lot of sense. How many flyers do you think they printed up? How many people do you think saw those flyers? And then, the flyers say 800 workers needed. Well, probably upwards of 20,000 people saw that flyer and they're all going, and there's only jobs for 800 of them. Like, that's a disaster right there. So the guy, and then of course there's like, oh, you're just starting trouble. Like, but he's making sense. It's math.
Yeah. And then I don't know if this happened before or after the camp. There's a great scene where they stop to like get gas, and they stop at a diner, and they're basically like, can we just have like a loaf of bread? And they're like, we don't sell loaves of bread, we sell sandwiches, and you got to buy a sandwich. It's like, well, we just want some bread and a bottle of milk, and we have money, we'll pay for it. And like the waitress is kind of giving them some crap about it, but then
Some
like the
lip, yeah.
cook is like, cook is like, just let him have it. The 10 cents is fine, or whatever he
Yeah.
says. And then he buys him like a piece of candy or something that was like, they said, oh, it's a three
Two for a
for
penny.
two for a penny, but they were like really like two for a nickel or something,
No, they were a nickel each.
or a nickel each. Yeah. So I like that scene because like it shows that, like, even though other people like are, even though the world is kind of beating up on them, Like there are still like decent people in the world that are willing to help people out, and it's like it's like a nice scene.
That's in the same spot with the gas station attendant, who annoyed me. What are you guys here for? We're here for some gasoline. You gonna pay for it? No, we're begging. Of course we're gonna pay for it. Like he just had that attitude, like what? You just are you gonna pay for it? Like of course they're gonna pay for it. Like you douchebag. Like the way he talked to them, like that annoyed me already. And then the diner was right after that.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember the order of things, but yeah, that was one of those things that was just like I liked that sequence because it was just like a way to show that there's still humanity in people.
Yeah.
Now at some point, we forgot to mention that the older sister, who's I had to look it up because they always call her Rosa Sharon, but apparently the name is Rose of Sharon,
Right.
but they just say Rosa Sharon. She's you get the impression that she's young and like in maybe her teens and she's pregnant. And as the kind of the trip goes on, like Connie, her husband, is like, I did not sign up for this. So I don't think he leaves right away, but he's you see early on like I don't know about this.
I don't think it's not till New Mexico when they're in that shanty town. That's when he leaves. But at this point, he's still with them.
Yeah. And then when they cross over into Arizona, and don't they get stopped by like cops or like guards they get stopped somewhere and they are basically asking about who's in the car, and then they talk about grandma, but grandma is actually dead and they have to pretend that she's not.
Right.
Where was that exactly? I can't remember.
That was in I believe that was in Arizona. No, it was Arizona because Arizona is where the shanty town is.
Okay.
Because when and that's actually no. The shanty town was in California. Okay, so we're still a ways away. So they went to New Mexico, and then Arizona. They got stopped one time going into Arizona, which I thought was weird because again, it's like it's still America, right? So, but they had like a border check on the Arizona border with New Mexico.
It's what it was. Yeah, it was a border check.
It was weird. And then they went to another checkpoint, which is when they were like gonna make them unload everything. Like, and I'm watching them like they're gonna unload everything. Are you nuts? And then that's when they see grandma in the back, and she's clearly dead, but they're like you said, they're pretending that she's not. And the cop takes sympathy on them and says, okay, just the doctor's like 8 miles ahead, hurry, and then he lets them go without having to check anything. But yeah, that was Arizona, and then they're about to go into California.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, it's one of those things you're like, oh, that's because they don't, before they reveal it officially that she died, like they shine the light on grandma and you're like, oh, she's dead. She's not alive at all.
Yep.
But yeah, they said that she's just awful sick. I think somewhere around here is whenever Connie takes off, I think.
After when they're in the shanty town, after like the first day, they say that he just took off.
Yeah, and one of the brothers who like doesn't really have any character development, I think his name is Noah, also just disappears.
Yeah.
So like the family kind of dwindles along the way. And there's another scene when they're in the shanty town where like Ma is like making like a very meager breakfast, and there's all these like hungry kids that just kind of come up.
That was rough, man.
And then she's just like, she's like, you know that they're like, Ma's thinking we can't feed all these kids, but like we have to feed these kids. They're like kids. We got to feed them something. It was one of those things. Again, people taking care of each other even whenever they can. It's like one of the main themes of the movie.
And and that sparks discussion because it's like, on one hand, if you want to look at it one way, yeah, these kids are hungry, but you only have enough food for your people. That's not your problem. But at the same time, they're freaking kids. You can't just let them starve. So it's like, what do you do? And I'm saying to myself, I'm just glad I'm not in that situation. Knock on wood. It's rough. But and even like one of the, what was it? I think the uncle, he couldn't eat because the kids were staring at him. He went into the tent. Like he kept trying to give his plate to Tom. Like, no, just go in the tent and eat. Like, come on, man. But then Ma just whatever was left over, she gave to the kids, which was good. Like you said, it still shows that there's some, this good spirit in them, and they're about like helping each other out, like a community.
Yeah, and then um whatever, I don't even know what it is. Whatever it was, didn't look appetizing, but these are hungry people.
Exactly. Hey, when you're hungry, like gruel could look like a freaking steak.
So then we got our kind of big first bit of trouble in the shantytown. This kind of, you know, business guy comes into town, and he's like, "Hey, I got you guys looking for work? I got work that pays 30 cents an hour or 30 cents a bushel or whatever they're picking. You just come on down, this place, and we'll work." This one guy basically is like, "I'll do it, but I need to see I want to see your license. I want to see it in writing." Again, like the pro union stuff is coming up here, right?
Yeah.
The guy, the businessman, like looks to his buddy who's the sheriff, like, "This guy?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's a troublemaker." And of course, then a fight breaks out. The dude runs away, and the sheriff shoots at him and kills the woman.
I was like,
Tom
another.
like can't abide by it and and knocks the cop out, which he shouldn't be doing, because first of all, he's already breaking parole by leaving the state, and
Yeah.
second of all, he's just punched the cop. But Casey basically tells him to run, and then he'll cover for him. But instead of actually covering for him, Casey just says, "No, I did it. I'll go." So and he like gets handcuffed and taken away.
Yeah. I didn't understand that at first, but then like later on we see Casey again. It's like, okay, I kind of get what he was trying to do here.
Yeah, apparently, people in the like literature, like scholars, view Casey, view Casey as like kind of a Christ allegory, which I can kind of see, but because he does sacrifice himself for Tom in this situation. But yeah, it's kind of funny how he just like, "Yeah, put the cuffs on me, I don't care."
Right? It was almost jovial when they did it. He was being carted off. It was kind of funny in a way.
Trying to think what happens after this. Then yeah, we mentioned that Connie has taken off at this point. Um, and then is this where he goes, where Tom goes, "Sure don't look none too prosperous."
Yeah, when they were first arriving, he was driving through, and all the little shanties and all the other people just like them, families that were not too much better situations than they were. So that's when he says, the sure don't look too prosperous line.
All right, so then after this, they basically, with Tom potentially in trouble, they just hightail it out of there, and
They
just kind of
hightail it
keep
out of there. Yep.
yeah, they keep on moving.
Well, they get word. I don't know how, but they get word from, I guess, one of the other people living there that there's going to be a mob coming to burn through the shanty town. So everybody leaves.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're right. They do that. So they do leave, and they go to like kind of a camp where they're seeing people kind of roll in. There's like little kind of dilapidated houses all set up, and there's like guards with like shotguns letting people in. They ask how many are there, how many of them can work, things like that. They give them some sort of like crazy like ridiculous like price, like you get 5 cents for every
a basket.
basket or something. Yeah, I think of peaches.
Yep.
But they set them up in a house, so at first you're like, okay, they got to break, even if it's only 5 cents, whatever, they got to break to get to live in a house, but like the dudes at the like checking them in, or you're already thinking, I don't like these guys at all. These guys don't look, they look like trouble.
Yeah. So so after leaving the shanty town, the car breaks down, and I think it's the tire they need to replace. So as they're trying to fix the tire, this guy drives up. He goes, "Oh, you guys are looking for work?" You're like, "We'll take any work that you got." Well, you want to pick peaches? Like, "Oh, sure, we'll pick peaches." Oh yeah, just go up to this ranch. What's it? I think like 40 miles up. Make a left. Tell them Spencer sent you. So yeah, so that's when they get to that ranch. They let in. There's a crowd outside the gates, and we don't know why, but it's very suspicious.
Yeah.
So
right.
at first you're thinking like, oh, they're getting a break, right? But then they come to the gate to this ranch, and there's like a mob out there. They're not letting them in. They're kind of causing a ruckus, and they have to go through like 2 or 3 different layers of security guards just to get into the gates. And then when they get to the gates, like you're saying, there's the row of houses, and they're asking them all these questions of how many can work, how many are you, house number 63 all the way down, and it's just they have this like very uptight, snarky attitude. So you're like, okay, well, I don't like these guys, and it's like, okay, well, maybe this break isn't such a big break after all. We'll see what happens, and yeah, so we'll go from there. But it's not the break they were hoping either.
Yeah, and you get a look inside the house. It's basically like just a shambles. Like
Yeah.
there's no furniture. There's just garbage all over the floor.
Yeah.
This doesn't really have to do anything with the plot, but one thing I noticed that was funny is just kind of like that like the code was in place back then because like Rosa Sharon does not look pregnant at all, but supposedly she's like super pregnant, like she's supposed to be like 7 or 8 months pregnant or something, but she just looks
Yeah, I
like the
said the same
skinny
thing
woman.
too.
Yeah, and she has like a dress that like is kind of billowy, so you can't see her stomach, but it's still like there's no belly under there. Like she's not that pregnant.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But I get back in the code days, you couldn't uh in post code Hollywood, you couldn't show pregnant women
Good
for
old
some reason.
Hayes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think they spend maybe like a day there picking peaches.
Hmm.
And they get some money and they go to the general store or the company store. Um,
Yeah.
and they find out basically like everything the company store is like super expensive. So the company is paying you crap wages, and then the only place you can buy any sort of bread or meal or anything is the company store where they overcharge you, so they're basically getting their money back.
Right.
So it's a shady system, and I remember actually reading about that in like high school like history class that this happened, and I was like, I can't believe that was legal. But
Yeah.
there you go.
Be surprised.
But you kind of still feel kind of hopeful because that night they get to sit down at a table and eat like a real meal that was cooked,
Right.
even if it's not a big meal, like they actually sit down and have a meal at a table, and they can have some uh like a sense of normalcy, which doesn't last long, because Tom decides, I think he says like, oh, I'm gonna go see if I can look for a girl, but
Oh, no, that was the brother.
oh, you're right, it was a brother. I thought it was
The
Tom that
brother
said that.
wants to look for a girl. Tom wants to go up to the gate and see what that whole crowd was about. He's
You're right.
curious, and then that's when he runs into the cop saying that he can't, he's not allowed to walk. So that's already suspicious in and of itself. And now, like, they're straight up just telling him, "Oh, you need to go back to your home, to the house. Oh, we'll give you a reason to go back." So he finds like a back exit, and he kind of like through like a creek or something, and then that's when he like tries to walk around to the entrance, but then he finds the tent, which he finds his old pal Casey in.
That's great, and it's kind of one of those things where like, as a moviegoer and someone you're watching, you're like, you know, Tom has already broken parole. He's already punched a cop, a sheriff, and he could be in major trouble. He could very easily go back to jail. And he sees his cop basically tell him, "Go back to where you came from. Go back to your house now." And he just doesn't listen to him.
Right.
He's just still like you kind of you kind of get frustrated as like a movie watcher. You're like, dude, just go back.
Just
Like
go
you don't
back.
but like you also know like his sense of like what's the word I'm looking for? Like not duty because you're not really performing duty, but like a sense of like dignity or self-respect that like won't allow him to be
Right.
like bullied around like that. And that like you said, as you said, he found like another way out, and that's where he found the tent with some basically some pro-union organizers and
All
Casey
right.
and
Yep.
Casey, and they're basically telling them like, yeah, these people are crooked, and they're gonna tell you, they're gonna give you price one day, and then they're gonna lower it the next day, and then there's nothing you can do about it, and they rigged the system, and we got to rise up and fight against them.
Yeah. Long story short, the people that were let in now were essentially strike breakers, so they're paying them the 5 cents a basket. But once the strike is done and they let everybody in, it's going to go down to 2.5 cents a basket, which you can't feed a family with. So that's the way of them gaming the system. That you get in for the one price, but then they screw you over for the lower price after all that hoopla is over. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and real quick, I just wanted to. I had this up on one of my tabs, and I gotta find it again. 2.5 cents a basket. translates to, in 2023 money, 54 cents a basket.
Ooh,
So not even a dollar.
not even a dollar.
Not even a dollar a basket. That's like,
that's bull crap, man.
yeah.
But like, what was funny? Well, why don't you? So why don't you find that also? Because to go back again a little bit at the beginning when Pa was talking about how he pretty much for this trip he saved up $200 to be able to make it to California, and I laughed at like $200. You won't even get to the end of the block with $200. So what would $200 be in 2023 dollars for back then?
Okay, let's see. Give me a second. Oop, no.
Literally, he said $200, and I laughed out loud like a joke. Like, come on, bro.
All right, let's see here. In 2023 dollars, $200 is not bad. It's $4,300.
Okay.
But if you're driving across the country, with
today's gas prices,
yeah, paying for gas, and then like in a truck that's constantly falling apart, it's probably going to need repairs, and having to feed like 10 different people, that money's going to go quick.
Yeah. I was going to say I had about a 5K for my trip to California, and it served me pretty well. So
yeah,
4,300.
That was just you, and it was like a luxury trip. Right?
Exactly.
It was like it wasn't your necessities.
Exactly. I didn't have to feed 10 other people with that 5K. So
yeah. So soon after they while they're in the tent, they hear like noises, and they find like some cops and like have come to like bust them up and beat them up. There's a skirmish. Tom gets away, and Casey unfortunately gets killed.
Like what with the baton? Like I couldn't really see because it was dark on purpose. Yeah. So he smacked him hard enough to kill him.
Yeah. He smacked him hard enough to kill him, and Tom manages to get back to his house, and they end up hiding him because they know they punched him in the face and left a mark on his face. Yeah. So he can't he can't hide. He can't go to work or anything because they're going to see a mark on his face. They're going to know that's probably the guy that was out there. So they hide and basically decide they got to go.
Yep, they got to hightail it. And then they just lie to the guy and say, "Oh, we got a job, good money." So there's no like suspicion of them. Oh, why are you leaving all of a sudden? So yeah, they get through like 2 layers of security just to get out of that damn place. But
house with his ma, and he's like, "I'm sorry, Ma. I couldn't not do it." And then she was like, "No, I get it. It's all right." Even though like this kind of screwed over the family a little bit, like she gets it,
Yeah.
Time, it's like they also know they can't stay here. Like this place is no good at all.
Well, right before that, if you remember, like they had that new family move in, and the guy was telling them, "Oh, it's 2.5 cents a basket." Like 2.5 cents, you can't feed a family on 2.5 cents. Like, well, it's 2.5 cents. You take it or leave it, And then because they have no other options, they're gonna take it. So, I mean, things were gonna work out there anyway. So, I mean, you could argue in a way that Tom did him a favor by killing that cop.
Yeah. And they have to end up like in the dead of night, they end up leaving, and they like stick him underneath like the millions of blankets and mattresses in the goddamn truck. That must smell so bad.
Right.
That truck, man. What a great like piece of like art direction with that truck is, because like not only is it just a truck, they have like a mattress tied to like the hood, which is like there, like you don't know if it's there because that's one place to put a mattress, or it's there holding the hood down or something.
It's
and
a
then
weird
there's
comparison.
Like, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, you know what I thought of, like with them driving around that big giant truck, which by the way, it almost tipped over on more than one occasion while they're driving, which I thought was funny. I'm sure that was on purpose, but still, like I'm like, oh my god, that truck's gonna flip over. But like, I got the sense. Do you remember the 10 Commandments when like the Hebrews are finally leaving Egypt and they're like packing up their wagons and they're all like one on top of the other? That's what it reminded me of, seeing like the kids on top of the truck and all like the bags and everything. Like it reminded me of like the 10 Commandments. It was a weird memory to have, but that was like, as far as like alliteration, that was the first thing I thought of, was like watching that scene. It was pretty funny.
I mean, they are having their own Exodus basically, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does kind of translate.
Right.
And then soon after they leave, the car breaks down again.
Again.
They have no gas. and they're like, "Do you think we can coast?" So they're like, "Okay, we'll coast it." They put it on neutral and just kind of coast down a hill for a while.
Yeah.
And they get to uh, where we finally get some actual hope, right? Where they get to a, a a farm workers like camp that's run by the Department of Agriculture, um, and where it looks like it's fully funded and it has like running water and nice places to sleep. And I do think it's funny because as they go in, there's like a speed bump, and like the kids as they hit the speed bump, like the kids just like fly out of the back of the truck.
Yeah.
But the I don't know, the manager or whatever you would call him, like he's basically tells them what the deal is, and he's like, "Yep, there's place for you right here. There's good place. There's work to be found. You got toilets and showers, and you can have food to eat, and it's all the government's taking care of it. And it's like, again, like talk about like, I don't know if you want to call it propaganda, but it's definitely going like, hey, this is what the government should be doing. They should be taking
Right.
care of its people. They should be doing things like this to help and support people. I think they even said there's a school there for their children. And everything like looks good here, right? Like they hang out here for a little while. And it's funny because like at first they like seem very suspicious of it. They're always
Like, at this point, after everything they've been through, like even I was suspicious of him. Okay, what's the catch? Because it's like that, and that's just how life is now. Like you can never like anything that seems good, there's got to be some sort of catch. And I'm not just talking about just in this movie. I'm just talking about like just in life in general. Like I don't know, just we've been warped by all these years of bad things happening to us. That when something good has come along, you can't take it at face value. There's always got to be like some catch to it. And it's just a normal part of life. And that was my whole thing too, just seeing everything they've been through at this point, to this point in the movie. They come to this camp, which seems on its surface to be really good, and it turns out it is, but you don't know that because you thought the Keene Ranch was going to be good, and it turns out that place is just equally as shitty as the shanty town. So it's just, just an emotional roller coaster there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then as he, and as Tom is registering, like he gets more of this like disbelief because he's like giving him his information and stuff, and he's like, and the I don't know what you call him, like the manager or whatever. He's like, yeah, people basically just run themselves around here. Like you elect someone to like, and then you kind of make your own rules, and then you follow your own rules. And Tom's like, so the only people running this place are the people that are living here. And he's like, that's how it is. And he's like, and there are no cops. He's like, not unless there's a warrant. But that kind of triggers the guy to kind of give him a second look. But he basically just says, cops only going to come here with a warrant. Just take care of that cut on your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything seems fine and happy. And there's a couple of scenes of them just being happy and living here. And there's even a scene of the two kids like going into a bathroom and flushing a toilet and then freaking out because they've never had a toilet, like an indoor
What
toilet
is this
before.
demonry? Which
They're like, you broke it, and they run out.
That scene, dude. That scene reminded me. I'm sure you've seen the bit Conan with the old timey baseball. Have you seen that clip, the Conan O'Brien, where he plays in that old timey baseball league?
No, I don't know if I've seen that.
Oh, dude, that's a classic of television, man. I'm gonna send you the clip.
Okay.
So it's somewhere, I think in like upstate New York, they have, how they like the Civil War recreations and all that. Well, they have like the old timey baseball recreation, right? Where it's literally like baseball from like the 1800s, like late 1800s, early 1900s.
Uh-huh.
And Conan joins, and then like he's like goofing around and all that, and then he goes, "What is this demonry?" And he points up, and there's a plane flying by. He goes, "What is this demonry?"
That does sound funny. I love Conan. I can't believe I've never seen that clip before.
And then and when I saw this clip of the kids like flushing the toilet and just running away from it, I thought of the Conan clip of like, what's this demonry? And it was the plane. That was great.
There's a old Conan clip. I don't know if it was on. I think it was the time he hosted Saturday Night Live, and it was he did a clip of like being an old timey boxer, and like the 1900s, basically like the baseball thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
And how he was like this undefeated champion, and the whole skit is like the first time he met a colored boxer, an African American boxer, however they put it, I don't remember. And then he like basically gets ass kicked in like 2 seconds.
Oh, see, now that one I haven't seen, so now I got to look that up.
That was pretty funny. So yeah, so they show them like kind of living and working here. And basically this guy kind of comes up to them while they're working and kind of says, "Hey, I just got some information. You guys seem like good people, and I don't want there to be like any problems. So I'm going to give you a heads up. There are some not strike breakers. What do they call them? Like, basically like people trying to break up. I guess you call them a strike breaker, but those are really the people that come to work, right? So,
right.
Like basically, there's going to be a mob of dudes that are going to come in, start trouble at like the local dance.
So they're essentially agitators.
Agitators, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Like start trouble, getting everybody into fights so that the cops can rush in and break the camp, bust people in the camp and because they're taking money away from the other people. So you can see that like the corruption going on. So they get the heads up and they're prepared for these guys to come in. And there's like this really nice dance where everyone's dancing and having a good time. And forget the brother's name. The brother's like going around to like every tent, like trying to see if there's women to ask out.
I feel bad for him at the end because he almost doesn't have anybody. And then the girl from the first tent, who the mom didn't let her go at first, saying that she already has a man. Well, she snuck out and then ended up going to dance with him. So that was nice. That was a nice little scene.
Yes, and so then like all the regulars at the camp kind of they spy the agitators like real quick. They like know exactly who they are, and they basically come up with a plan to like stop them from doing anything. And some of the guys are like, oh, we just gotta take them down with like our sticks or knives or whatever. And the leader's like, no, you don't want to do that. We're not gonna do that. We're just gonna take them out so that nobody even notices. And they do a real good job too. Like basically, as right before like a big dance starts, they basically grab them and they take them out of the way before anyone even notices they're gone.
Yep.
And then right after that, like conveniently, all the cops show up and they're like, we heard that there was a disturbance like 2 seconds after the guys were taken away. And then they're like, there's no disturbance here. Take a look. Again, You see like all the corruption there is in this in with the companies and trying to like break up unions and stuff.
Right.
But as we're kind of winding down the movie here, we find out that basically it's not going to be easy for them anymore because Tom, in the middle of the night, he notices that 2 cops have come in looking for people, and they realize they're looking for him. And he realizes he can't stay with his family because he's just going to put them in danger. And he decides that he's got to go.
Yep.
And then like a really sad moment as he's about to sneak out of the tent, you hear his mom go, aren't you going to say goodbye? It's just like the saddest thing ever. You got to leave your mom. And then this is where he has like a really famous speech. It didn't make the list, but it was nominated for like 100 movie quotes for AFI. And I got the quote right here. It's basically like, I'll be around in the dark. I'll be everywhere. Wherever you can look, wherever there's a fight so hungry people can eat, I'll be there. Wherever there's a cop beating up a guy, I'll be there. And it's basically he's kind of taking on Jim Casey's mission. He's going to go and just kind of wander and just try to like right injustices because he knows he can't stay with his family because his family will like get caught up in the trouble he's in. But if he's out there like by himself, he can't get them in trouble. But he can also be doing some good in the world.
He can do good. Yep.
And it's like it's very noble kind of sacrifice kind of thing. And that's kind of the last we see of Tom, as he just basically says, yeah, that's my calling in life now. I got to go do this.
Yep. And then and then just as mysteriously as he came in, he's gone. So. Yeah, that was that whole scene. Yeah, it was very moving. Very good performance, especially by Henry Fonda. Yeah, that was just that was rough. And I at this point I checked the time. And there's only like maybe 5 minutes left. Like, oh my god, is this how it's gonna end? Like I was already getting upset. Like it's gonna be a sad ending. I was like, oh great.
And then the like right before he leaves, like she says like something like, "And when this all blows over, you can come and see us." And like they give us, and you're like, they're not going to see each other again. Like
Yeah, this is it.
this is
Yep.
it. It's super sad. It's a super sad. It's not quite the ending, but it's a super sad
Right.
penultimate scene. Um, and then at the very end of the film, we get the Jodes are now packing up on their truck, and they're because they heard some more work is coming and that can pay well, and they're going to get back on the road and seek more work. Because my impression is that they can't stay there like long, and you can't like stay there indefinitely. You have to let them move out at some point. So they pack up and they start working, and as they're kind of driving off, Ma's kind of like giving kind of like a hopeful speech about how, they're not gonna keep us down. We're the people, and that's kind of how it ends.
Yeah, it was a really nice speech. It was nice to have her have like the final words, basically just saying, we've been through so much, yet we're still going, you know, and that's what makes us the people that are going to survive. Some of these rich people are going to die out. Their kids are going to be no good. They're going to die out, but we're still going to be here. Just alluding to the fact that, just looking at the journey they took throughout this entire movie, and yet they're still, kicking. They're still driving, wherever they can get work, and they're just doing what they can to survive. Whereas people who are, I would say, more well off than them are taking it for granted. They're gonna be no good to anybody soon, but they're still gonna keep coming. They're still gonna keep trucking along, because, like you said, they're the people. And again, just the ultimate representation of like the workforce, of the labor movements, of unions, and these are the people that keep everything running. These are the people that make everything easier for others, or for most of us. So it's and then for them to be stepped on, taken for granted for so long, it's just, basically what we're saying here is treat people better. I think if there's a one theme that we can take away from this, it's just treat workers better, man. Like, it's just, and even to today, there's still some BS going around with that. But even in the time of the Great Depression, time of World War II, in the movies, is a lot of unsavory things going. So the theme here is just treat people better, man. If I can sum it up in one sentence.
Yeah, and then I got the quote right here. The last lines. This is the last line she says exactly. "We're the people that live. They can't wipe us out. They can't lick us. We'll go on forever, Pa, because we're the people."
Yep.
And then the movie ends. So interesting. So because it's kind of a hopeful note, but not real. Like it's still a bit of a downer, but it's at least
Yeah.
kind of they're looking hopeful to the future. Um, this is where we're going to talk about a little bit of differences from the book. So
Okay.
like I said, the first part of the movie, the first kind of half of the movie, and the first half of the book, more or less, are kind of the same.
Okay.
They changed some of there's the later half. They changed some of the order that things happen. Like maybe they go to one of the shanty towns or one of the camps before the other one, and like it's not always the same.
Right.
Like maybe I think maybe they go to the the Department of Agriculture camp before they go to the one that's like paying 2.5 cents an hour. I'm not sure. So they changed some of the order of things. Um, but the same stuff happens. Like Tom gets beats up a cop and he has to leave the family and all that stuff. That still happens. But it just changed the order of the stuff. One of the major things is the ending. In the ending, the scene where Ma is basically going, we'll go on forever because we're the people. It's not in the book. They changed it to have a more hopeful ending because at the end of the book, the basically the family is just pretty much defeated, and it ends with Rosa Sharon delivering a baby that's stillborn.
Oh.
And
Dude.
not to get too much into women's biology, whenever you're pregnant and you deliver a baby, even if it's stillborn, the breasts are still filled with milk. And they come across a dying man, and sorry, a starving boy, a starving man and his son. And literally, like the last page talks about how how Ma says something to Rosa Sharon, and then she takes the man away and basically breastfeeds him back to life. And then that's how the book ends.
What?
Not no, that's how the book ends.
Oh. Okay.
So yeah, the book was not a happy ending at all. I mean, you think this was a happy ending? The book's ending was like, yeah, no, this is everyone's fucked.
Mm.
um, the other thing is that they did tone down the so apparently if the book is even more pro worker, pro union rhetoric, but
Yeah.
they toned a lot of that down. Even so, you got a lot here. The book is a lot more. I can't remember because I read it in high school, but it is a lot more in the book. Um, it's funny that it is true though, like that since they were worried about like getting attacked for being communist, I don't think they ever did. But this is totally like you could totally take it for like quote unquote communist like propaganda, right? Because it's all
Right.
about the power of the worker and the evil companies, right? And you know what's funny? I was having a discussion with our friend Joe Randazzo and how like, all these, I'm not going to get too political, but let's say all these people in a certain wing of left and right political spectrum, certain people on one side of that always talk about how woke everything is getting and how um,
Made up word.
movies in the old days weren't woke. Um, the Grapes of Wrath is about as woke as you can get. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like that movie has a message and it's not one that they would like.
Yeah, I mean, going off of what they think is quote unquote woke, I think this movie pretty much fits the bill, and it's from 1940. So like they need to kind of wake up a little bit. Ironically enough, they throwing around the word woke. They know they need to wake up. So
They're still upset about Bud Light cans. Anyway, so as far as its legacy
fuck
goes,
Bud Light, and the dude he shoots this freaking rifle.
because
Kid Rock's such a loser, man.
nothing hurts a company more than buying their product, giving them money, and then destroying the product
Exactly.
after you've given them their money.
I mean, it worked out for Nike. It worked out for what was it the coffee thing, or was it the coffee, whatever it was, the
Yeah, I don't
first
know.
one.
They
But
don't- uh, but they're the ones who complain about cancel culture. Anyway,
right,
so uh, talking a little bit about the legacy, when the movie came out, it was pretty much met with rave reviews from everybody, almost unanimously loved the film. It's frequently mentioned as one of the greatest American films of all time. Box office, it was a moderate success. It made about $34 million in today's money. It cost much less than that to make, so it was a success. It's just, I mean, we're used to nowadays we're used to like $100 million openings, right? But like 34 million was a decent amount of money back then. Um, Nominated for 7 Oscars, won for director John Ford and supporting actress for Jane Darwell, who played Ma. And as you said, it was not nominated for cinematography, which is crazy to me, but it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor for for Henry Fonda, and also nominated for Screenplay, Editing, and Sound. Uh, Obviously, it lost Best Picture to Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca.
Rebecca.
But Ford stole the Best Director Oscar from Hitchcock, who never got to have an Oscar. So there you go.
And once again, like it's none of this makes sense, and I'm not gonna get to that tangent, but none of this make it make sense.
um, Henry Ford did lose the Oscar to Jimmy Stewart, who won it for the Philadelphia Story. I do believe those two were friends, so I don't think there was any bad blood there.
Right.
Henry Fonda had to wait 40 years to get an Oscar
Oof.
when he won it for On Golden Pond in 1980.
Yeah.
And that's most of the Oscar stuff here. It was inducted in the first class of the National Film Registry in
Yes.
1989. Was on the AFI's 100 Heroes and Villains list. Tom Joad, the number 12 hero. I
All
would
right.
agree with that. Tom Joad is
Pretty high.
definitely much a very heroic character. On their most inspirational movies, it came in at number 7. I see what they're trying to say, but I'm not so inspired at the end of the movie. I'm more depressed.
100 years. I don't know about that.
And then in the last 100 movies of all time, it came in number 23, slapped in between E.T. and Some Like It Hot. Both movies we've covered.
Do you know if they're ever gonna do another update? Because it's been like what, like 20 years since the last
The
update?
last one they did was 2008. The 100 movies was the 10th anniversary. That was 2007. And then 2008 they did like the 10 top 10, which was like 10 movies in like different categories, like the 10 sci-fi movies, the 10 westerns, the
Yeah.
10 courtroom dramas or something. And that was 2008. So that was like
Jeez. It's
15
15
years
years
ago.
now.
15
15
years ago.
years.
Like I feel like why aren't they doing them? You know?
Especially with
Um,
all the stuff that's come out since then that would probably now be contenders for the 100 movies, you know?
yeah, exactly. Like yeah, like Crash. So
Right.
but yeah, it's crazy that they haven't done one yet. I would totally watch that. I actually bought the original broadcast of the first one from like 1997. They
Oh,
released
cool.
they released that on DVD, and they released um the 100 stars, like 100 years 100 stars, which is like a countdown of like all the great stars from old Hollywood.
Yeah.
Um that one is harder to find. Basically, they're both out of print because of like licensing issues, which is why I don't think they ever released any other ones of the other countdowns. If you like are adventurous enough, you can find some of the clips on YouTube and stuff, but it's really hard to find the shows in complete order.
Right.
It's not in complete order, but in complete, like fully complete segments. Anyway, it is available pretty much everywhere digitally to rent or purchase at all the major digital retail outlets. Uh, you're looking at about a $3.99 rental or a $9.99 purchase. And it was released on Blu-ray, so we are proponents of Blu-ray, so it's been released on Blu-ray. But so far, no major special editions. Like there's some special features on the Blu-ray, but it's not like a major like special edition or anything. I think like if maybe Criterion could get hands on it, we could get like a nice edition of this.
Yeah.
And the only other edition that it was included in it was in the Fox 75th Anniversary Collection as one of the 75 discs. So that's pretty much it.
There you
Um, so that'll do it for the Grapes of Wrath. Now, we have recently, in our shows, I've been putting up polls on what the next movie will be. I did not do that this time. So we're going to go back to our old friend, the random movie
go.
generator,
Generator.
and
Okay.
see what our next show will be. So
All
I'm going to
right.
bust it out right now and see what we get. All right. It's thinking. Okay. This is a great one, and I've actually really recently rewatched this, but I'll be happily watch it again. Our next film, speaking of Hitchcock, will be North by Northwest.
Ooh, that's a great one. All
I
right.
love that. I literally just watched that a few months ago, but
I
I'll watch it
saw
again.
it last year. I think it was on Turner Classics. They were showing it, so I still want to get one more rewatching, a fresh take, but it was a year ago that I saw it. But I mean, that's a fantastic film. I can't wait.
I love North by Northwest, so I'm super happy about it. So that'll be our next movie. Mark, do you have any plugs before we go?
You can follow me on Twitter at sportsguy515. I'm not so much on Twitter anymore. I'm more on Instagram. So if you want to follow me, same hashtag at sportsguy515. You'll find me just talking about the trip still. I'm probably making a second Instagram reel with some clips from the trip that I couldn't fit into the first reel because these reels are only 90 seconds long is the max. So I'm putting another reel together with another more wrestling based because the first reel was more just Hollywood based. This one's a little more based on the wrestling that I didn't really get to highlight in the other one. Um, yeah, Force Perspective. I'm trying to see some of the new stuff, but again, once the trip happened, like I kind of just fell behind once again on stuff. Like I didn't get to see Scream, I didn't get to see Mario Brothers, I didn't get to see Creed. I want to see Bo's Afraid so bad, and I'm gonna do my best to try to go within the next week or two to go see Bo's Afraid because it's Ari Aster. This is his third movie. His first two were home runs in my book, so I'm very curious about this one. It is very long though, I heard, so it's something you got to be prepared for. And then we have Guardians of the Galaxy next week, so I'm excited for that too. But all in due time. And then I am gonna try this weekend, do my best to go see Return of the Jedi on the big screen for the 40th anniversary. It's out this weekend. I've never seen Return of the Jedi on the big screen, not even the special edition in '97. So, and it's of course it's part of the original, is one of my favorites. So I want to get out there this weekend and try to get that on the big screen as well.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do the Return of the Jedi because I did see the special edition in '97, and I'm still mad about it. So I'm not going to see that. And I'm even more mad now that they added the stupid
They added the
Hayden,
no, right?
the no and Hayden Christensen, which I don't like at all.
Okay, the hate. Okay, I know it bothers you. It doesn't bother me as much. The Hayden Christensen. The no bothers me.
The no sucks. The blinking Ewoks suck, and Hayden Christensen sucks. Not, I shouldn't say that. Hayden Christensen seems like an okay guy, but the adding him in sucks.
I think for me, it's more that it makes it fit with the prequels more. But I get why the old school fans who saw it in '83 in the theaters or who were around back then would be pissed. But me, who started with the special editions, which led into the prequels, I guess that's why it doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah. I did see Mario though. I took my kids to see it. It's fun. It's totally fun. It's the way I put it is, it's a kids movie. It's totally a kids movie, but it throws so much nostalgia at you of anybody who like grew up playing any Mario game. It throws up so many nostalgia and so many like references that like it keeps like the old people happy, and all like the goofy stuff keeps the kids happy, and it's like a perfect combination. Like it's not like Toy Story or like Wall-E or something as far as like an excellent piece of animation and story or anything, but it's a
Right.
fun movie. It's absolutely a fun movie. It references Mario Kart, it references Super Smash Brothers, and it references all the Mario games, like the actual adventure games. I'm not going to spoil some of the characters you see in the background, but because you're going to want to see it. But it has all those references. You see they ride on the Rainbow Road, which is awesome.
Ooh.
They Donkey Kong pops up as a character, which I didn't realize going into the movie. It's a lot of fun. They even have the old Super Mario Brothers theme song from the old TV show, like in the movie. Like they changed the lyrics, but
The Captain Lou song.
the Captain Lou song, but they change in the movie. It's like their plumbing commercial, so they changed the lyrics to make it like for a plumbing commercial, but it's
Yeah.
totally the song. Like that's the song. Yeah, it's awesome. It's so much fun. Again, it's not Citizen Kane. I mean, it's not like it's not like the greatest animated movies of all time. It's not like a Toy Story or anything, but it is an excellent, like, fun movie for like kids and Nintendo nerds.
There's a clip that went viral right when the movie was coming out. Grace Randolph was reviewing. I don't know if you saw this clip, but she's just confused about so Mario's in the Mario Brothers 3 outfit, like the cat suit, and
Yes.
she's just confused by it. Like, wait, Mario's dressed like a cat? Like, I don't. And then I'm watching this, and I'm just cringing, like, oh my god, does she not know about Mario Brothers 3? Like, ugh. And it's just everybody's, and she's getting buried in the comments. It's just, it's pretty cringe. But it's like, I get this was made with all the little Easter eggs and all the references that you're talking about. Like this was made for like the fans, for the Nintendo
Absolutely
fans.
made for the fans, and like the movie was made for fans, but like it's like structured for like kids, right?
Yeah.
So like my kids didn't get any of the references, but it was like enough silly stuff happening that they loved it, right?
They enjoyed it, yeah.
Yeah. But like you do see the cat suit, you see the raccoon suit. I'm trying to think what else. Like you see the fireball, all that stuff.
Nice.
There's an Easter egg in. I think I'm older than you, so I don't know if you remember, but do you remember the old NES Pro Wrestling game?
Yes, I do.
Like with Starman and Amazon?
Yes, I do.
There's a reference to that game.
Oh!
Not a spoken reference. It's an Easter egg in the background. You have to look for it.
Yes.
But when I saw it, I was like, yes! I was so happy when I saw it. So again, it's like
wrestling.
It is blink and you miss it. Like absolutely. It is not. No, they don't reference it. Nobody talks about it. It's something in the background that you see for like 2 seconds. But once you see it and you know it's there, you're like, oh my god, that's awesome. So I like some nerd on the animation team had fun putting that there. That's all I'm gonna say.
I can't wait, bro. Pro wrestling for the NES.
Yep, it's in there, man. It's in there for like 2 seconds, but it's there.
Are you gonna tell me that there's a Little Mac Punch Out reference? That'll be the next thing.
I'm not gonna say there's not a Punch Out reference.
All right. That's I'm excited now. I'm excited.
But I mean, Punch Out is less obscure than NES Pro Wrestling. NES Pro Wrestling is fucking obscure. So like the fact that I saw that in like a movie that's like making $1 billion, it just cracks me up and makes me happy.
All right.
Anyway, um, as far as my plugs go, I am not on Twitter anymore. I have gotten rid of it. I'm no longer on Twitter because
That place sucks, man.
it sucks now. And for a couple of things. One, I stayed on it after the Elon takeover because I was like, whatever, it doesn't bother me. But they added like a for you section where they recommend stuff. I was getting so many like right wing recommendations, like for like Fox News and like One America, what's that, One America News or whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah.
All
Yep.
these different anchors, Newsmax, and all these different. I'm like, Ben Shapiro. I'm like, why are you recommending this to me? So that was bad enough. And then, but not so. Then, and no matter how many times I like blocked it or said I wasn't interested, more and more of them would pop up in my feed. But also, like, now it's like Elon, like his changes were like, if you don't subscribe to Twitter Blue, like your posts aren't going to get seen as much. You're like, so you're telling me I have to pay $8 a month for people just to see my tweets? Fuck that. So I deactivated my account, no longer on Twitter, and I don't think anybody, like, I am not losing anything out of that deal. That said, you can still find me at essentialfilmspodcast.com. Email me at essentialfilmspodcast@gmail.com. And the Essential Films is on Instagram. You can find us there. There is one thing, though, I would like to plug, is that I did start a Substack, which is the new thing now, where I'm just basically putting up like daily movie recommendations each day. And if you want to subscribe to that, it is Adolfo Acosta, ADOLFOACOSTA.substack.com. If you don't know what Substack is, it's basically if you have a writer that you like, you can subscribe to them, and then every time they publish a new article, it goes right into your email inbox, and then you could just read it like that, or you can go to the webpage. And so basically, it's kind of like you're curating your internet, basically. So that's what it is. I've got a couple subscriber. Our buddy Joe Randazzo is also on there. So if you want to follow me there, you can follow me there. All right, folks, that'll do it for us this week. As we said, next time it will be North by Northwest by Alfred Hitchcock. So make sure you get that in before you watch or listen to our next episode. As for that'll do it for us. So for Mark, I'm Adolfo. And remember, we are the people, and buy physical media.